Macmillan Audio presents The Other Significant Others, Reimagining Life with Friendship at the Center. Written and read for you by Rhaina Cohen. The richest relationships are often those that don't fit neatly into the preconceived slots we have made for the archetypes we imagine would populate our lives. The friend, the lover, the parent, the sibling, the mentor, the muse. We then must either stretch ourselves to create new slots shaped after these singular relationships, enduring the growing pains of self-expansion, or petrify. Maria Popova. Why do we choose what we choose? What would we choose if we had a real choice? Ellen Willis. Author's note. This book goes into the depths of people's personal lives to illuminate a type of relationship that's been hidden in plain sight. The people featured in this book, who represent a fraction of the approximately 70 people I interviewed, decided to share so much about themselves because they hoped they could make friendships like theirs visible. I use their real names. In a few cases, I only use their first names or an initial. I also talk about myself, and at times it was relevant to refer to people in my personal life. Whereas the people I interviewed actively chose to participate in this book, my loved ones merely opted to be my friend or partner. Some of these people asked for pseudonyms, which I used to preserve their privacy. Introduction. The second half of 2022 was my wedding tour of America. Friends who had delayed their weddings because of the COVID pandemic were like shoppers lined up outside Target on Black Friday, ready to seize the earliest days for safe celebration as soon as the doors opened. Over 6 months, I attended 6 weddings and missed 2 others because of travel conflicts. Each wedding featured personalized touches. There was the groom, who formed a one-night-only band with his friends, euphoric and sweating through his gilded traditional Pakistani suit with each strike of his drumsticks. A bride, who's a poet, commanded the attention of hundreds of guests as she shared the poem she'd written for the occasion. Holding a microphone in one hand, the printed-out poem in the other, and her veil a waterfall tracing the back of her dark hair, she read aloud, "We do not belong to ourselves alone." I silently chided myself for not having worn waterproof mascara that day. As distinct as these weddings were, a commonality surfaced. Again and again, brides and grooms referred to their spouse-to-be as their best friend. One officiant began the vows section of the ceremony by instructing the bride and groom to hold the hand of your best friend. I looked at the best man, who was just as lean and towering in his 3-piece suit as he'd been the day that he and the groom became college roommates, a moment that predated the bride and groom's romantic relationship by more than a year. When the officiant asked the bride and groom to promise, as part of their lifelong vows, to be the other's best friend, I wondered what the best man was thinking. His title had been swiped. For the last stop on my wedding tour, I officiated the ceremony between 2 friends who, in my mind, have the consummate romantic partnership. I prepared by reading speeches from people in my social circles who had officiated weddings. I was struck by a few lines in a speech from a woman who introduced herself as the best friend of the bride. Her title was, so far, uncontested. After welcoming the guests, she announced, "The most important moment in life is when you meet the person with whom you want to spend the rest of your life. The person who makes you see the world as a beautiful and magical place, who validates your every breath. For the bride, that happened 23 years ago, when she met me." Cue laughter. The officiant continued, "But 8 years ago, she met the groom." I thought it was a brilliant joke. But then, journalist killjoy that I am, I started to ask where the comedy was coming from. How much of the humor rested on the assumption that friends don't decide to spend the rest of their lives together? Was it really that absurd? My interest in these questions was more than theoretical.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?